Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. I'm your host FPL Phillips and today it's another episode of Eddie versus the Algorithm, the series here on YouTube, but I'm taking on the Fantasy Football Fix AI generated highest predicted point scoring team for each game week of the FPL season, and then we see at the end of the campaign what is better, myself or a computer at FPL. So far, it looks like the humans are reigning supreme over the computer. It's currently, I think, 12-6 in the series after my victory in game week 18. I was quite proud of a few of those picks actually, but we're not going to do a recap over that game week given that it was now 2 game weeks ago. By the time you're watching this, we're just around the corner from game week 20. And so I've got a team to put together. Let's have a look first of all though at what you're mainly here for, which is going to be the computer generated team with the highest predicted point scoring total for this coming game week. Apologies if I don't sound quite my usual self today, if the presentation is not as good as usual. I'll be honest, I am slightly hungover from last night. So yeah, not an ideal scenario. I guess it's a lack of professionalism from me, isn't it, at the end of the day? But let's get into talking about something other than me. And let's have a look at the predicted points scoring team that's judged to be the highest by the Fantasy Football Fix algorithm. It's 68 predicted points for this game week, and in a 3-5-2 formation, the goalkeeper of choice this week is going to be Emi Martinez. Now, there are some nice fixtures on offer for a few sides this game week. Namely, we've got Manchester City at home to Sheffield United. You could even argue that Liverpool fixture at home to Newcastle now looks like a rather appealing one too. But I think with those teams, you're looking more at outfield assets. I think Burnley at home is another really nice fixture for Aston Villa, who have a good record at home on the whole. Of course, we've kind of got in the recent memory, we've got that Sheffield United game in a lot of our heads, but it's important to remember, to look a few game weeks backwards as well. So yeah, Martinez, I think, still a very, very good chance of a clean sheet, and that one looking very good in terms of clean sheet odds, which of course we can't rely on entirely, but as far as picking a goalkeeper is concerned, that's all that really is to go off, as well as bonus points and save point potential. So I like Martinez for a pick, and to be honest, he's just always a great asset to own in my view in FPL. In defence this week, we're going to see Trent Alexander-Arnold, Alex Moreno and Pedro Porro for the algorithm. Now, Trent and Porro, pretty bog-standard picks, looking a class above the rest, really, in terms of underlying numbers going forward over all the other defenders, really, in the game right now. So it makes sense to have those two in with home fixtures. The Bournemouth game, I don't think, is going to be a particularly easy one for Spurs. I am recording this before Spurs have actually played their game in game week 19. And of course, they have got some injuries at the moment. Eric Dyer's having to come in. I don't think he's actually starting in the game. I'm just looking over at the lineup now. But they've got that injury to Romero. They've got players going off to AFCON. It's the Asia Cup, of course, as well. Heung-min Son. So they might struggle for a bit. Of course, those continental competitions aren't going to affect game week 20, but the injury to Romero might. So definitely keep an eye on and kind of assess for yourself, I guess, how Spurs got on in that game against Brighton in game week 19. Porro still looks really good going forward, and I think with the Spurs, both wing-backs really, you're kind of looking at them more for attacking threat. Kind of if they do get a clean sheet, then they could be on for a really good haul. Alex Moreno is a bit of an interesting pick. I obviously like the potential for a clean sheet at home for Aston Villa this week, as I mentioned with Martinez. However, Luca Dean seems to have that place kind of locked down at left back, and it seems to be his place to lose. FPL Villain is the man on Twitter for all the latest Aston Villa projections, etc., etc. I'm sure there will be a point probably down the line when Moreno does start some games. However, I just think maybe they're managing the injury. That's what I'm assuming, and that's why Moreno has only been making appearances from the bench, where he is still rather good, and he has looked very, very threatening, similarly to the likes of Pedro Porro going forward. And at the back end of last season, Alex Moreno showed us all what he can do in terms of going forward. He got a lot of assists on the back end of last year's campaign, and when he does start, he's a fantastic asset, but I'm just a bit worried that he doesn't start a lot of games, and hasn't really, especially since returning from that injury. And so that's enough to put me off. I actually took a bit of a punt on him a few games ago in this series to start, and I've probably learnt my lesson and won't go for him again until I've seen him getting some appearances from the get-go of each game. In midfield, we're going to see Heung-min Son taking the armband, as we saw in yesterday's video. If you tuned into that, he's predicted the highest amount of points for this game week with 7.0. Mo Salah takes the vice-captain armband on 6.3. Both very obvious picks before they both go off to their respective continental competitions in a game week's time. They've then got Grealish, Foden and Bowen as the other three midfielders, who I do like. Brighton are shipping like 1 or 2 goals a game. I think they're still yet to keep a clean sheet in forever, it feels like now. So 4.7 predicted points is maybe a bit low for Bowen, to be honest. It will be the last game before Kudus goes off to the African Cup of Nations as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how West Ham fare with him going off. But yeah, Brighton is still a nice fixture for West Ham and another home game. We're yet to see an away fixture in this team so far, and that trend continues with Grealish and Foden coming in as the 2 Man City assets. Really like the look of both these guys as well. Foden especially when he's kind of playing in a little bit more of a central role. When Grealish was injured, Foden kind of had to move out left, and I don't think he was as good of an asset there. But he's looked a lot better recently, and the numbers are kind of backing that up as well. And then finally up front, we're going to see presumably Julian Alvarez as the 3rd Man City asset, and lo and behold, there he is on his 5.5 predicted points. Potential captaincy candidate as well, given that it looks like Haaland's going to be out. In fact, well, Pep said he's going to be out until January, so that would rule him out. Not that Pep hasn't been caught lying in the past, but I personally think Haaland will be out for at least 1 more game week, and then we've got the big break until around the 13th of January, I think it is, for game week 21, where that's probably the most realistic return date for Erling Haaland if you're looking to predict it. And then finally, Ollie Watkins, again, that home fixture against Burnley, very nice one, and a player who's in good form. Makes sense just to go for him, really, and not go a bit, overthink it and go with someone else. But I do still like a lot of options this week. I think it could be a high-scoring game week. On the bench, we've got Chris Wood after his hat-trick against Newcastle. We've also got Destiny Udogie, Bell, and Areola as the other options on the bench. So let's have a look at my team then. 68 predicted points for the algorithm. And to be honest, when I saw the algorithm team, it doesn't look too different from mine, in all honesty. I've still got a very similar core to the team. I've got Watkins and Alvarez. I've got 2 Man City assets, but I've gone with Bernardo Silva over Phil Foden. Just a bit of a gut feeling. Bernardo's numbers have looked very good as of late as well, so I've decided to go for him. I've gone with Kudus over Bowen. Just thought last hurrah before he goes off to AFCON. Maybe he'll be looking to just leave his mark in that last game. Not that he hasn't already done that. He's looked fantastic for West Ham, and I think he is going to be a bit of a big miss. At the back, I've gone with Udogie instead of going with Alex Moreno, as mentioned. I just think he's a bit of a risk to go for. And Udogie, I know Spurs have all these injuries. There's a lot of things not going in their favour quite at the moment. It's definitely valuable to have that extra game's worth of information that I don't have whilst recording this video. So you guys will be at an advantage there if you're watching this, late on Thursday or into Friday. But yeah, I think Udogie is still one I'm in my team anyway, just due to the attacking threat going forward. And hopefully he can still put that on show even when players are missing. I only need him to do it, of course, when the players who are injured are out, not when Son's gone. He'll still be around for game week 20, which is handy as he's still in my team. On the bench, I've gone with Areola still. I've gone with Zinchenko as well. Pau Torres, who's back, hopefully fit and available for that one against Burnley. And then just Cameron Archer. And yeah, that's going to wrap up my side. Let me know down below in the comments which team you think is going to come out on top for this game week. Team Algorithm or Team Eddie. Comment it down below. Does help out with the YouTube algo stuff. We want the algo to feed the algorithm videos. So get those likes in, comments in, whatever. It really does help us out, and we do appreciate it very much. Thank you very much for tuning in once more, and I wish you guys all the best of luck for Game Week 20. I've got to go away now and try and finalise my wildcard draft. Given that Haaland's out, the video yesterday probably isn't that relevant anymore. So yeah, probably not going to go with Haaland. Either that or I'm going to bench him. I'll be putting my thoughts over on Twitter, etc., etc. Hopefully, we can get you some more updates on that. But yeah, I'll mainly just be doing some research using all the fantasy football fix tools. A lot of time in the Optistat section for me this evening. I'm going to go away and do that now. Thanks guys for tuning in. Once again, I wish you the best of luck for this coming game week, and I hope to catch you in a future video. Goodbye.